watching Numbskull News, and today we're doing a Get It Gang video. This is brought to us by Jimmy Otson. So here's his idea. What if the SEC and the Big 10 both decided to permanently shut down further conference realignment right now? Which means they'll never go beyond what they already have. No more expansion for them. Everybody else can go kiss their ass. Could the following colleges below put together a 16-team league that could rival the P2, meaning a media deal for $80 to $100 million per school, equal playoff payouts, equal clout, etc.? FSU, Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame, Utah, BYU, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, North Carolina, Louisville, Georgia Tech, West Virginia, Colorado, Duke, and Baylor. Could you swap out any of these teams to make this happen? First off, Jimmy, I am sorry it took me so damn long to get to this thing, but here we are. I think before I really get into it, let's take a look at the teams, see if we need to replace or move things around to maximize what you could possibly have in a new conference, a Power 3 conference, where you essentially decimate the Big 12 and the ACC to form this new thing to rival the Big 10 and the SEC. All right, this is the 6-team league that Mr. Otson has proposed, but he did say, hey, switch some things out if you think you need to up the value, right? Well, first off, I got to give a criteria to how I'm going to do this. I'm looking at this hypothetical new league forming in the early 2030s. And because of that, and because of the question and everything else, they're going for money, not exposure, meaning they're going to take on a huge streaming partner, Amazon, Netflix, Google, someone like that. They'll have a linear option with take your pick, ESPN, Fox, WBD, CBS, whoever. Maybe a couple of them, but their main partner is going to be a streamer, which means, does market really matter that much? Not as much. Not as much. So let's get going. And first of all, I got to take out Notre Dame. Not because they're not worthy, because they're not going to join any conference. Not in the foreseeable future, they're not. But they're tied to the ACC. But in this scenario, let's say they get out of the ACC and do a new 5-game deal with this conference, which helps this conference as far as bolstering its value. But they can't be counted as a full member, so we need to find another full member. So I'm going to replace them with Kansas State. I know we already have Kansas, but Kansas State gets pretty damn good ratings. Now, there's been times where that's been up and down, but they're very competitive in basketball and, of course, football. They're kind of like a Louisville, if you will. So I'm adding in another Louisville. It doesn't matter that you got another team in the same state. Who cares? Because that's not the first time this is going to happen. Now, I got to take Duke out because you need eyeballs. Duke does not bring eyeballs. Now, I'm going to leave UNC in. I'm going to leave them in. They do have better ratings than Duke, by and large. They would still be at the bottom of this thing. And they need to play Duke every year. They can still play Duke every year in basketball. Not a problem. It's not going to be in conference because Duke does not bring enough. And look, I like Duke. I want Duke in the Big 12. But when you're trying to get this conference to equal that of the SEC and the Big 10, you can't afford Duke. So who do we replace Duke with? Well, how about Texas Tech? Now, you can look at the ratings and say, well, that's around UNC, maybe a little less than UNC. But remember, we're going to get this new Nielsen ratings deal. Texas Tech is deep out there in West Texas, and they're a lot of rural communities. Plus, they have influence in the DFW area. They draw ratings out of there as well. but the new calculations will really help Texas Tech. Is there anyone else here that needs to be replaced? You know, Georgia Tech, and I know markets don't really matter, but there is a big population right there, and their ratings are growing. They do have that game they play with Georgia every year that helps out. So I'm cool leaving in Georgia Tech for now. West Virginia is a little bit borderline. I love West Virginia. And you would say, well, yeah, and this kind of thing. Is there, but there may be a couple of options that draw bigger money, or at least draw a little bit better ratings. But I'm going to leave West Virginia in right now. There's a lot of history there that can be built upon. So I'm going to leave West Virginia in there. Because there's some other borderline people here. I love Baylor. Even as a TCU fan, I got a lot of respect for Baylor. But if we got to have a small private school in Texas, it's not going to be Baylor. It's going to be TCU. Period. End of story. It's going to be TCU. TCU gets more eyeballs than Baylor. They have better ratings than Baylor. Moreover, if you look at this thing the last 10 years, TCU is a better ratings draw than Baylor is. That is the absolute truth. There's one more. We're taking out Arizona State. I know they just won the damn Big 12, but their ratings are still for shit. Even though they're in a big media market, they're not a draw. Maybe that'll change over the years, but as far as right now, what you can sell, because this is what we're going off of, this is the information we have right now. Now, I understand why Jimmy put in Arizona State. They just made the playoffs. Epic game with Texas. They're looking to be a contender in the Big 12 for the next couple of years. But if you look at the past, Arizona State has done horseshit, nothing in the Pac-12 the whole time they were there. It was a joke. At least you could say Arizona has a legit basketball program that has been, one of the biggest programs in the NCAA. But, Iowa State also, damn good basketball program, legitimately in the Big 12, been one of the top programs for a very long time. The football has always been tough, always been a pain in the ass for anybody dealing with Iowa State. Their ratings are decent, but there's going to be a big jump up. Like I said before, with the new Nielsen rating system, Iowa State is going to really benefit from that. So this is where I'm going. Arizona State, I'm taking them out. I don't care about the market because it hasn't helped them with the ratings. Even last year, winning the Big 12, their ratings, Iowa State still beat their ass in the ratings. I mean, beat their ass. So Arizona beat Arizona State last year in the ratings, folks. And Arizona was dog crap. Arizona State won the Big 12, but Arizona, they just get more support. I know there's a huge student alumni base in Arizona. Yeah, great. They don't watch football. That's the problem right now. Until we start seeing that change, Iowa State has got this spot. So overall, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ACC teams, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Big 12 teams. All apologies to NC State. All apologies to them. They're kind of getting screwed out here. But, it is what it is. I wanted to shout them out, give them a little love. Could this thing get $80 to $100 million a year? Could they get that kind of investment from media partners, especially with a big streamer? I don't know. I don't know if the low end number there maybe close to it, but $100 million, I don't see that. I don't see it. 60 to 80 million, I think, is more the range of this. I think that's fair. So that's 16 teams plus on an aside 5 games with Notre Dame. You can't say the Big Ten absolutely won't take Notre Dame. Okay. And if they do, that's going to reduce the value of this conference. Now, the 60 to 80 million is even more difficult. Another issue is getting the Big 12 schools to come in. And here's the problem. Is Florida State, Miami, and Clemson, are they still wanting the unequal revenue share? That's something they're not going to do. It's going to have to be up and down. Everybody gets equal shares of the media rights deal. And we know right now that's a problem in the ACC. And with this, is it still going to be the same kind of deal? That's what's going to throw a lot of shit off. But my speculation is, of course, like anyone else's, the Big Ten and the SEC are not going to shut down expansion. And those media partners aren't going to, the media partners for the Big Ten and the media partners for the SEC, they don't want to shut off expansion. They want to expand with the right teams. So the reality to this hypothetical is it can never happen on a realistic basis, is because that expansion, that realignment is not going to stop just yet. There's still value to be had. And especially when you look at the Big Ten, they got 3 media partners, and they all know there's not enough premium matchups in the Big Ten to satisfy all 3. If it was just 2 partners, especially just one, they're fine. But with 3, there's just not enough. There's too many Rutgers versus Purdue games. You see what I'm saying? And NBC and CBS are paying way too much money for the content to not get enough premium matchups to justify that expenditure. So getting into Florida is huge for the Big Ten. That's their number one deal. They want Florida State, they want Miami, and of course, Notre Dame. So in a real world application of this, hypothesis, it doesn't work because Florida State, Clemson, and Miami are just like Oregon and Washington in the Pac-12, who would not commit. These teams won't commit long term. And you say, well, come on, what if it's close to $80 million? And the next TV deals for the Big Ten and the SEC, you're talking about media rights deals that are going to pay out $100 million a school, or right at it. They're going to get a big pay jump, a pretty nice pay jump. And this thing just won't get it because, and I know the hypothetical was supposed to be there's no more realignment ever, but I talked about that, but you cannot do that with Notre Dame. All right. They may decide that, hey, we just can't do it. We got to go to the Big Ten. The scheduling is just, and it's a small, I only give it like a 10% chance of that happening, but you can't take out the 10%. And if there's that 10% chance, it hurts this new league. And by all the valuations in the Big 12 that private capital has given them, they fully expect their media rights to double in 2030. So if you're talking 60 million, so this new conference would have to get 80 plus in order to attract a Texas Tech or an Oklahoma State or a TCU or an Iowa State. That's going to be very difficult. I don't see that new, and I think that I made that as valuable as you can get. I don't think you're going to pull Big Ten and SEC money out of that. Because you got some premier matchups in this new thing, and some really good top shelf performers. West Virginia is a nice performer. Utah, really nice performer. How long is that bump that Bill Belichick is going to give UNC? Saying he stays there and doesn't chase the muff somewhere. how long does that last with him being 73? Colorado. Eventually, Dion will retire or will just move on, whether that be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Eventually, he'll hang him up. And when that happens, does Colorado go down to its Pac 12 horseshit ratings, or does it equalize into something good? We don't know. So overall, I thought it was a good thought experiment. Thank you, Jimmy Yotson. But no, I don't think that would make what the Big Ten and the SEC could make. Thus, those schools aren't going to leave their situations to form something that's just not going to get there. I actually think it'd be far more likely, like if there's just no, absolutely, there will never, ever, ever be any more expansion from the Big Ten or the SEC. I could see a world where Florida State, Clemson, and Miami possibly just join the Big 12. Possibly. But I think the most realistic scenario is all those teams stay except, a team like Louisville or a Georgia Tech or a Pitt would actually pay the $75 and go to the Big 12 because they're getting screwed with unequal revenue sharing. That's a death sentence. I don't give a damn. If there's no further expansion of the Big Two, that's going to kill the ACC's future. It's just going to. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.